And we are live. Hello, 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 everyone. I am Afro Butterfly. Welcome back to the Digital Green Book Podcast. As you know, I like to do pop ups sometimes as well. On Monday, I'll be having a chat with the wonderful VC, Haley. And today, I'm doing a pop up with the wonderful Jackson Harris III. And we're going to be chatting today a little bit about the upcoming event next weekend. Our flagship, Blue Collar to the Blockchain, presents Miami 2023 event. There'll be a lot of wonderful things going on March 25th and 26th. So if you don't have a ticket yet, I don't know what you're doing with your life. Just playing. You can grab some free tickets for that event. We'll be at Florida Memorial University. You can go to bc2bc.org. / Miami 2023. I'll throw the link up on the screen in just a couple of minutes. But I want to get into the wonderful Jackson Harris III. Thank you so much for being here, Jackson. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, you have so graciously agreed to be on our panel. We're having a few different workshops and conversations that weekend coming up next weekend. And you are actually pretty deeply enmeshed in the tech and Web3 space right here in Miami. So, could you tell me a little bit about how you got into the roles that you do and tell us what you do?
Yeah, definitely. So I came out to Miami for Art Basel in the end of 2021. Buddy of mine, he runs a local coffee shop in Brickell. Shout out to Puros Coffee. And he's like, hey, the Miami tech scene, this kind of almost post-pandemic lifestyle that's going on here in Miami. You got to come check it out. There's a lot of people in the Web3 space. And my buddy who runs that coffee shop, him and I go way back. I'm originally from California. I met him out there, and I'm in this little group chat with him, and always talking about all of the different tech things that I do. So he's like, "You got to come check it out." So that was my first foray into the Web3 ecosystem out here. Came back again for a hackathon, Miami Hack Week 2022. Participated in that, and that started my journey into the Miami ecosystem. I was part of an acqui-hire out of that hackathon. So now I work here as a software engineer in the Web3 R&D development space for Niantic Labs. For those who don't know, they are the creators and developers behind Pokemon Go. And what I do with the team from that hackathon is explore the areas where Web3 makes sense for a large, traditionally Web2 gaming company, and how do these technologies add value to those experiences? But I didn't forget the value that the Shrimp Society provided to me. So I work with them on a regular basis to help the developer side of the community. And I do some other things as well, like some of the hack nights, and I go to those. And we just had a Shrimp Fit sunrise yoga this past Friday, so a couple days ago. But the gist of it is, how do you go from 0 to 1 as a developer? How do you go from maybe a non-traditional background like myself? Like I was a econ major, marketing guy, sales guy, and transitioned into software development. So people who are in that 0 to 1 stage, how can they ascend and climb through that ladder? So I'm helping actively with the Shrimp Society and building out a program specifically targeted to the 0 to 1 process for developers. At the same time, they've been doing work for founders and early entrepreneurs, anyone with the entrepreneurial spirit. So working closely on making sure that those people have development talent regardless of where they're at. There's been, Series A companies that the Shrimp have worked with, all the way down to people just, fleshing out ideas. And all stages of those places need different form of development. So really working with them on, again, the community engagement side, matching founders, entrepreneurial people with developers, and then lastly, helping developers in the Miami ecosystem get the resources that they need to be successful.
I think that's pretty cool. And the reason why I'm excited to add you to this event, have you, is that you're actually inside of the Web3 system. A lot of people, as I travel to different conferences, just came back from South by Southwest, which was amazing. And it's still going on 11 days. My God. I got looking to break into these spaces. As you know, people traditionally fall into one or two categories: either they're technical or non-technical, and then of course there's gray area in between. And then there's always that elusive question, sometimes, especially for people from our community, like, how do I break into tech if they didn't have necessarily the opportunity to get a uh, engineering degree or necessarily have that early pathway that other communities may have had access to. So I love sort of trajectory that you've taken. Could you touch a little bit on your background and how you became a developer?
Yeah, definitely. So I think that early pathway piece is such an important thing because growing up, my father was military. We moved around a lot as a kid, and go to school, get your degree, get a good job, and retire after however many years was like that was the thing, that was the goal. And I graduated, and might date myself a little bit, but right before the 2008 crisis. So when that happened and the student loan shock stuff. Really took the country into a recession and whatnot, it caused me to need to reevaluate some of that stuff, the plans my parents had made for myself. They were going to cover college education. So I went to an expensive school to get that education because my dad being the first person in his family to get a college degree, he had to go into the military to get that. And my mom, just at the time, there weren't the same kinds of programs there are today, so she didn't get to go to college. Kind of paid her way through JC, super smart, graduated early from high school, but just being the middle child of a family of five, she didn't have that opportunity. So they were really big on me going to college, and I was the first person of my generation on my mom's side to get a college degree. So that was like really important for them. So through that process, I originally went to get a mechanical engineering degree. One thing led to another, and all of a sudden, this 5-year program turned into like a 7 or 8 year program because of all that stuff that was going on with 2008. And I was just grinding away at school, looking at the mounting student loan debt, and thinking to myself, if I get a job in this field and I get a government job and the pay bands, I just did the math, and it was never going to work out. I was always going to be paying off this bone crushing student loan debt. So I started looking at more of how do businesses and entrepreneurs happen. And I was in Sacramento, California. I had a lot of friends who frequented the Bay Area, so I got to go to San Francisco and see the kids living in the basements, and to see the people at like UC Berkeley or UC Davis, starting startups. And had I not gone to Sacramento, where my mother was from, having a place to stay at my grandma's house, I wouldn't have met the people I met, and I wouldn't have had the access to those pathways like you talked about. So it was really a right place, right time kind of thing, and made the right friends who then showed me that there was another way. And it was kind of a bumpy start. I went to junior college. I was transitioning to get a business degree instead of my mechanical engineering, so I was switching majors. And I had an opportunity to live in a basement in San Francisco to learn how to code. And I did that. And my parents found out maybe like a month or two in, and they're like, "Hey, if you don't go back to college, we're gonna take your car, or close down the bank accounts. Like the cell phone's gonna be off." So I went back to grandma's house and chugged along with the degree. But the guys in that basement, they all got 6-figure software engineering jobs. One of them, a college dropout. Another guy had his associates and had been programming since he was like 10, and now he's a director of engineering for a really large retailer. I'm not going to talk about his details, but the point being is, seeing that and having lived in the same basement with them, I was like, okay, I know that's possible. And at this point now, I'm a few years out of school, marketing job, doing digital marketing and biz dev, had a lot of sales skills. I tried everything from insurance to digital marketing, multimedia, all those kinds of things, and working this marketing job. The company shifted gears, and the CEO was like, "Hey, what we promised you isn't going to happen. Company shifting gears, but I support you in whatever you want to do. So you have a job as long as you want." but by all means, reskill, do something. So again, another pathway, another opportunity that was given to me that I know a lot of people don't have. So in that moment, I thought, okay, those guys I was in that basement with, they're kicking butt. How do I do that? So I went to a coding boot camp at through UC Davis, because again, thinking, okay, university name, the program that's going to be that prestigiousness, that kind of traditional path that I remember. My parents are going to buy into this a lot more if they're hearing UC Davis is involved versus my buddies in San Francisco in a basement. So I went through that boot camp, and out of it, I got a job in San Francisco, or actually it was Oakland, at a startup. Worked there for a few months, and then began the more traditional tech bounce around path. I worked there for 3 months, and I was at a crypto startup, and this was 2018. So I was at a crypto startup in security for a few months. And then I struck out on my own for about a year, building websites for any kind of business, coffee shops, moped shops. I moved to Hawaii and helped a lot of local businesses on the island start e-commerce stores. And then I ended up getting a job where I was doing fulfillment for a digital marketing agency, building home improvement websites, or websites that facilitated distribution for frozen goods in New York. So I kind of cut my teeth on like being the engineer who was taking these marketing goals, these marketing ideas, and building out complex backends, whether it's Shopify, WordPress, or you name it. And then the pandemic hit, lost all my clients, and decided to skill up once more. I went to another coding boot camp. This time I went to Hack Reactor, which was more of an engineer's boot camp. I would say the first one was more on software development, which is, okay, I don't necessarily need to architect things, but I know if I have the blueprints, I can build the stuff. Where Hack Reactor really gave me the foundational knowledge of engineering principles that allowed me to go from developer to now I can architect, solve problems in a way that I just couldn't before. So finished that program, and a few months later, I got the call from my buddy out in Miami, and the rest is history. So that's a little bit of a lengthy story, but full circle how it all happened for me.
But necessary, because what I found, people who I feel as though have a foothold or some form of what I would consider success. I don't consider success just a dollar amount. Of course, people, dollar amount matters to folks. We all know, because we got bills to pay. The prime rate is going up, and it's a little ridiculous out here. $8 for some eggs. But in that same breath, your story is what I would consider what is becoming the new traditional story. Myself, I have like 3 degrees, and I'm like, but current lifestyle, I'm not using any of them. But like yourself, it's like going to school, and especially my mother was an educator, went to work for the post office. My father was a plumber, very blue collar. For me to branch out and go from doing ICU nursing for 13 years to switch over to web, like, the F is that? And what's wrong with you? You're gonna leave this good travel nursing job to do what now? So I feel you. And I know that similar pressure at times, like, okay, it doesn't have an official brand household name title on it, like Friends Basement versus UC Berkeley. Like, I totally get you. I'm here.
Yeah.
And I also lived in San Francisco. Funny story. I worked at UCSF Parnassus for a year.
Nice.
So I did the Potrero Hill. I did Daly City for a little bit.
Okay.
Richmond District, Inner Sunset. I know that city very well. And funny enough, one of my favorite houses I lived in it was in Inner Sunset, because as you know, that's a great
Yeah.
place to be.
Oh,
They
yeah.
took this old brownstone and they knifed it up and there was like 7 bedrooms on the first floor when
Yes.
originally it was 3. And then the upstairs, they did the same thing. My roommate, I was a traveling nurse, doctors in there, travel nurse, 2 doctors, and then 4 coders. 4 people were in coding boot camps. And this was 2017, 18.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
around that same time, I'm
Really
like,
was
man,
tough.
they're really pumping these coding boot camps heavy. So that's who knows, could have passed by each other on the street around that time. But I find
Definitely.
your story inspiring and transformational because it's becoming the new normal. It's really highlighting to me that traditional education pathways, while beautiful, grateful for them, they're not really cutting the mustard as it comes to actually getting people employed in the jobs that they want and the jobs that will help them sustain. Like you went to 2 boot camps and you continue to build on your expertise with practical real world experience to
Hmm.
sneeze or like blink your degree, but it's really the boot camps that got you to what you want. I really think that's why myself and my co-founders have begun like lasering in on trying to source out boot camps, accelerators, scholarships, hosting hackathons, connecting to people who have resources that'll actually get people's feet wet inside of this ecosystem, be it traditional tech or Web3, which there's a nice Venn diagram that I could draw there, and there's a lot of overlap. It's not as scary and nefarious people think Web3 is, because we're already using it quite a bit. But I appreciate your story because I think you're going to like when we look back 10 years from now, your story will be a common typical story. Like, got this great degree from this great school, not really using it, went to a boot camp, networking. The other key piece of your story was networking. By you forming relationships with people and them getting to know your character, it allowed you 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, 5 years down the line to reach back out to people who knew your character, knew what you were working on, knew your determination level and your skill set to say, yeah, I want to work with that person again. So what level of importance would you put on networking at this point in your career?
I'd say it's 100%. Well, not 100%, but it's very valuable. In order to move through any ecosystem, you're going to need to know people. You can't get very far on your own. There's a lot of people who are super talented and can rely on, dogged determination and things, but at some point, um, you're going to have to work with others. So I think that's one of the reasons I'm involved with the Shrimp Society. It's really just a reflection of what's helped me be successful so far. To talk about, colleges, universities, and not cutting the mustard, I think the biggest benefit from them is networking. You're going to be around like-minded individuals who are determined and are willing to put money on the line in many cases to be successful. And I think the college and university system in the US is still important for that. Now, does a piece of paper guarantee you a job? No. A lot of these boot camps are willing to put their payment on the line. Like there's a program that I went through with Hack Reactor where essentially I think it's something like uh, 80% of the tuition is deferred until you get a job. Like the universities will go out of business if they did that. So I just focus on that to say community and being a part of the space that you're in, whether it's helping people who are, you know, just getting started on their journey, having conversations like this with people who are kind of lockstep in the journey right now, but maybe just in different verticals, right? Like we're having right now, or having the opportunity to work with people who have accomplished more or are doing the kinds of things that you want to do. So networking is super critical to learning new things, reflecting on where you've gone, so you can always understand how to maybe not regress, but then giving back too, because without other people in the community or network, I wouldn't be where I'm at, and I'm very cognizant of that. And I remind folks, even my buddy Alex, every time I see him, I'm like, bro, he's talking about, oh well, you're doing this or doing that. I'm like, dude, thank you, because like without you, without the coffee shop, without the work that your parents did, completely separate from my path, like I might have been successful in other ways, but the way I am successful now, this is a critical piece of the story. So networking, community is immensely important.
So just to go into why I feel the yearning or the calling to do the things that I do, because people ask me often, how do you have so much energy? Why are you doing the things that you do? it's like I look on LinkedIn and you're in one state, then you're in another state, then you're in a different country. And sometimes I reflect on that a lot. And it's not that I don't necessarily have a clear cut answer, because I do know endogenously what powers me to keep going. At the everything, my personal mission statement is to create as many of I very, very seriously. I see my internet out here. AT&T, you playing with the wrong one. Let me stop. Um, I take creating generational wealth very seriously, because it's not something in our traditional school system. We don't teach kids how to balance checkbooks. We don't teach them about debit and credit. We don't teach them about spending habits, impulsiveness. We don't teach them about scholarships and sourcing them early, volunteering, mentorship, community, neighboring. There's so many communal things that I think that the traditional school system could teach on a daily basis, but they don't. And I don't even fault the teachers, because the capacity and the demand and the level of attention and detail that would be needed to nurture that, there's no way.
Yeah,
Um, and then you can see by zip code, depending on if you live in a slightly better, they do have the opportunities to instill those things.
of course.
I do believe in Montessori schooling. I also do believe in home and private schooling far more over the traditional school system. So it's one of my lifelong goals to try and partner more with the traditional school system to inject some of those things for children who might not have the fiscal means to live in a better zip code, or to have the right network from birth, silver spoon, or to have nepotism on their side. I've since I switched over to what I'm doing now, I've met I networking. The reason why I asked a question about networking, I've met so many amazing selfless people who have sort of that same lockstep that you were care about community. We care about generational wealth. We care about more than crabs in a bucket mentality, where it's like, oh, I found something good, let me gatekeep it. No. If I found something good and I share it and more people do it, then it'll create an energy where this is the new norm. That's how I feel about it. And I'm really pulled by this internal locus of control. I truly do believe I control my own destiny, and I do believe that no matter what circumstance is put in front of me, that I can push and power through whatever is happening around me to make things happen. It may not be easy. I never said it was easy, honey, but um it's why I find myself in Austin, Texas on a random Sunday afternoon and bumping into a group full of female venture capitalists. What? Or or interviewing phenomenal people such as yourself. We literally made a decision to hop on this Zoom about 20 minutes prior, and your story has already provided a wealth of knowledge that I know that a lot of my viewership is predominantly founders, predominantly people looking to switch careers from a second job, and frankly speaking, people who look like us. And it's not always about that, but there is an undercurrent of that always there for me, because I know that even myself, as someone who's been blessed enough to work in world class hospitals, my home hospital was Mayo Clinic, and from there I went to Harvard, UCLA, like I've been blessed. Um, but even despite that, I didn't know about this entirely different ecosystem that we're talking about now. I
Of
had no
course.
clue of the reach that tech and now Web3 would have in my life. Like, I would hazard to say I've met some of the dopest people in the last 4 years of my life. And if me having a conversation with you on a random Saturday afternoon encourages even one person to look outside of the bubble that they're in to do something slightly different, then it's worth it for me. Because we could have easily had this conversation on the phone, but
Yeah.
it's more than that. So what's cool about the essence of everything we're talking about, your past, my past, and the event coming up next weekend, aside from the fact that anyone from the community or college students, high school students, anybody can attend for free and get this knowledge. We do have some great prizes sponsored by Microsoft. Thank you. Shout out Microsoft. Shout out Sydney Davis of Nix Code, who made this wonderful software that we're using. Yes, Black Sister, go ahead, get that trademark and do your TED Talk. Yes. Um, Shout out to all of our wonderful panelists and speakers who are offering these amazing bounties. I really wanted each of the bounties to have a focus on mentorship of some type, because anybody can get some cash. I mean, we still doing that. We still doing that, but it's still like after that. What comes after that? What's the aftercare or the
Mhm.
follow up or the maintenance? Like if one of these kids really do have a deep interest in tech, does it stop on March the 26th after the event's all done? No, it should be an ongoing nurturing thing, and it shouldn't be just one person getting it. Let's get 10 people and see what can this really do to can it spark a movement. And I really think it will, because the people participating are phenomenal, yourself included. Um, Also, we touched on networking. I really do think this will be a phenomenal event to network at. Not only did we intentionally reach and pull people from different sectors of the Miami community, specifically the Miami community from our community, um, like Dr. E of Black Network. I'm so excited for her to be there. Like she's just a light and a positive energy. Jadon, who you know from working with Miami Hack Week, he's going to be one of the hackathon judges. I think that'll be so phenomenal. Just seeing someone like him do so many amazing things in Miami is mind blowing to me.
Yes.
Whitney, oh my goodness, Haitians in tech, sis out here killing it. Microsoft programming and coding. I want the girls to see a representation of themselves. Not to mention Sydney developing an entire software. Like I can't even. Like I would literally run through the entire roster right now. Um,
Yes.
but even yourself, doubling back to you, Jackson, I'm very honored that you decided to participate. Shout out to Adina for the connection, and you know, I really want to see where this goes. I'm excited for your bounty. Like, could you touch on that a bit more? Like, tell me more about the Shrimp Society and what y'all do on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, definitely. So the Shrimp Society, like I kind of touched on a little bit earlier, it's pretty much for anyone who's entrepreneurial in mindset, right? Or spirit, whether that's marketing, developing, building an app, your side hustle game is strong, whatever it is, like, we want to help you go from 0 to 1, from 1 to 2, from 4 to 9, whatever it is, we focus on that early entrepreneurial spirit. And how we do that is by providing programming that is mostly free, right? We partnered with the city of Miami. We partnered with Venture Miami, and we have some other partners that we're going to be working with throughout this year to provide different educational services to help you go from 0 to 1. We have a boot camp called the 0 to 1 boot camp coming up. I believe it's in April or May, and that program is more on the operator side. So earlier you said there's kind of like two paths, right? Instead of saying like technical and non-technical, we typically talk about the operators and then the builders, right? So the operators, that's going to be for them. How to go from this idea to something that's tangible? How do you go from your side hustle to something that can be taken into maybe that venture pathway? The Shroom Society has worked with a number of startups to, I think it's in the tens of millions of the dollars that have been raised in venture funding. So what we're doing is, again, programming on the educational side for the operators. Then we're going to be doing matchmaking on the side with the developers. So if you're an operator who thinks, okay, do I need to become a builder? Do I need to become technical? Or maybe I just need to be in the right places to find those people who I can share my vision with. So those are some of the things that we're doing, providing those spaces. Again, typically free of charge. We have a hack night every Tuesday at Pure Roast Coffee, where people just come and work. We have coffee. We have like light drinks and snacks and stuff like that. So our membership is what we're going to be offering as a bounty. So most of these events are open to the public, but we always have something a little special for our members. And an example is at Hack Nights. We have beer, wine, and snacks and free coffee for our members. Obviously, that stuff is available at the coffee shop, and networking and coming out and working is free. We have different mixers and events. So when we have speakers in a panel, we'll have kind of a either a before or after with the panelists for our members. And we have an amazing Discord where there are tons of people sharing ideas and listing job postings. So there's stuff open to the public there, and also some closed channels for our members. So that's what we're going to be offering. It's called the MP23 membership pass for the Shrimp Society, which gets you, all of our email list, contact info, all of the types of events that we're doing, all of that. But then at each one of those, we have a little bit something special for those individuals. And of course, they're the first ones that we refer when it comes to opportunities that come across our table. So that's a little bit about the Shrimp Society, what I'm doing there, and then also what's in store for some hackathon winners.
Well, I'm super excited, and I'm blessed today because I didn't even get the full chance to have a chat with you about your background before, but I feel like it's allowed me to get to know you even better. And it's 6 degrees of separation. Something tells me we may have met in San Francisco and just don't even remember it. But I'm really looking forward
who knew each other.
that part. I'm really looking forward to next weekend. It's going to be great.
Right.
Shout out to anyone is afraid to hack because the word intimidates you, but this is very entry level. We'll even have it where up until the last minute when you can decide to hack after Sydney's workshop, she's going to be teaching newbies who've never hacked before how to use. So this, if I had to say on a scale from 0 to 10 where you want to jump in and get your feet wet, this is the 0. Hop in here so you can get your feet wet, learn, and get your hands on it. Hackathon are hosted all over the world. You can go to devpost.com and find a listing of hackathons all over the world, and they'll be from varying levels of difficulty. We really tried to curate this one to be as accessible to everyone as possible so you can at least understand what the concept is. Network, find some great friends who share similar interests, and come and meet each of these amazing Miami locally based speakers and educators and panelists, because these are the people you want to know. But thank you, Jackson. I'm looking forward to seeing you next weekend. And what's one thing, if you could talk to 18-year-old you, we're going to leave the conversation here. If you could go back in time and tell 18-year-old you one thing, what would you tell yourself?
Go to where the lightning strikes. There's cities, there's events, there's people out there who are doing the things that you want to do. So get as close to those places as possible. And if you're thinking about career changing, if you're thinking about doing something a little bit different, I wish I maybe had leaned into that a little sooner. So that's what I tell 18-year-old me, like, go to the places where the people who are doing the things that you want to do are, and just go be there as much as possible. So whether you're skilled, you're new, whatever, I'm saying that to you as well. Like, the operators are just as important as the builders. So I hope to see anyone and everyone coming out, maybe the 18-year-old version of myself as well.
Isn't advice. In fact, I'm leaning into that even more. That's why I show up you literally just spoke to why I go so many places. I go to where I see the types of things happening that I want to do. That's why I'm all over the place, y'all. You summed that up perfectly. Well, thank you, everyone, for tuning in. This interview will be available for replay on YouTube and LinkedIn. I will tag you, Jackson, so you can reshare it to your network, and hope to see everybody out next weekend.
Awesome. Thanks for your time.